right, welcome everybody. Hey, Will, I saw you in there peeking. Um,
Nephew.
hey, everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. Hey, 2 weeks before the regular season begins. I mean, September 12th is the first regular season game. The last game of the season, the preseason, is this Saturday. Um, Cuts have to be made by what, Sunday at 3? They have to go down to 53. Um, so yeah, it's coming. It's
Oh, we
coming.
have 53 players left.
Uh we will. I just don't know if it's going to be the 53 that everyone thinks it's going to be. It's the bottom half of the roster, I think, is really
Yeah.
get turned up. Um, I was there yesterday. There's my program. I always buy one of these things. I was
I
at
do too.
the newly refurbished Caesar Superdome. Um, it was nice. It was interesting. They took out a section of the club level and replaced it. You're going to see it on TV, but they replaced it with. It looks like standing room only seats. I don't know what it is, but it's a section. It kind of pulls in, and it's like a balcony view. My old seats from when I was a kid that my dad had when we moved from Tulane Stadium to um, the Superdome, which that was an adventure in itself because Tulane Stadium sat over 80,000 people, and the Superdome, even in 1975, where you used to have the seats that came out, you'll see them if you look at the highlights of Super Bowl 12, the first Super Bowl played in the Superdome between Denver and Dallas. You can see those extended seats that would go all the way out near the bench. It was a
Yeah.
section of it really was literally stackable chairs that they connected together, and they sat on these metal things, and you can see the fans sitting in them. They took those away a long, long time ago, but those rows and all used to come out even further for basketball games and everything else. But at the time, I think the dome sat when it opened was 71 or 72,000 people, and then over the years when we made renovations, it shrunk, and it's now probably 60, 65,000. But when you went from over 80 to 72, there was 10,000 people who had season tickets. You ain't getting your seat. We got to figure out where we're going to put you. And yeah, so my dad and we would watch the game. What they used to call the opera box seats, whereas a section of in the terrace level. We used to call them the padded seats because back then the terrace was all the hard plastic seats. But they would come out to the scoreboard. I was on the side of the scoreboard, right above where the Saints come out in that corner tunnel on their sideline. That's where we sat. Front row, you had a little bit of a ledge about this wide with a railing in the front, and people would always set their drinks on top of that railing, and inevitably somebody down in the loge of the plaza is going to get a beer shower. It always happens.
Yeah.
I knocked my popcorn all over people, and I sat back like this for a little while. Don't know what happened there. Somebody just got a popcorn shower. So
Now,
eventually they ran a
Al,
piece. So what?
let me ask you this though, because a lot was being made, especially on social media, about the Saints and the Superdome's policy of vaccination or show your vaccination cards or negative COVID test. Did that delay entry at all? How organized was it, and how upset? What was the general tone of the fans as they entered?
You know what? They got me. They asked me for proof when I went to Champion Square. I heard there were people who got in without ever even being asked. I'd heard that if you went through on the Poydras side up those ramps, I heard that they weren't even stopping people. They certainly didn't stop and ask me when I came with my ticket or at the airport security thing where they scan you. They never asked me for anything. I had it with me the whole time. I just got asked for it when I entered Champion Square, and that was it. I didn't even see really a lot of mask doctors or people making sure you wear your mask. So I didn't see that either. So I don't know.
Now, how was the mask mandate hit once you were inside and the game started? Did people start ripping them off, or were they pretty
Yeah,
good
they had
about
a lot. They had a lot of people had theirs off or bent down. You would go to start to drink something, and you take your mask off to drink something, and then they wouldn't put it back on. But like when I went to Pelicans games last year, and when I was at the Saints game I went to last year, they had somebody standing there. That's all he did was watch you and hey, put your mask on, pull your mask up, kind of thing. And I didn't see that. There was a lot more people in the dome, though. There was a lot more people than obviously when I was there before. But I don't
That's
know.
why I probably won't get to go to a Saints game this year because I ain't wearing a mask. I ain't getting a vaccination. They can do what they want to do about all that, but I'm not going to be backed into a corner and somebody tell me what I'm going to do. I'm just not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, as long as they have the statewide mandate, you have to wear a mask indoors. There's nothing the Superdome can do about it. It's the state. So I mean, my thing is
that's another fight for another day, I guess.
Yeah. My thing is I got vaccinated so I wouldn't have to wear a damn mask. And I got to wear a mask. And that does get frustrating. It's hot.
I have an issue with people telling me it's supposed to be a choice of mine. I choose to or I choose not to, as far as the vaccination goes. But you have all these people that are trying to make you do something like that.
Well, to be fair, when you went to school as a kid, you had to have the MMR vaccination. You had to have certain vaccinations. I mean, you had to provide a vaccination card to go to school. So, I mean, I get that. I get what you're saying because to me, this isn't a vaccine. It's a flu shot. And what I mean by that is, and I'm not, my goal is not to have a show about the vaccination because, I support people who get vaccinated. I understand the reasons why you get vaccinated. I want this shit to end too because I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
But the people who compare it to the smallpox and polio and things like that, I was never told, well, yeah, you got the smallpox vaccine, but you need to wear a mask just in case you might spread it to other people because you might be a carrier. That's like the flu. That's the flu shot to me.
Yeah.
Because you can still get it, but it won't affect you as bad. And it's because of the nature of this virus, that you have this situation. So I don't like the false comparison to polio and smallpox and things we eradicated. That's the most frustrating part. Like I said, I got the vaccine, so I wouldn't have to wear a mask, and I'm being told I have to wear a mask again. So I get aggravated with that. So it's hard to convince other people like yourself to get vaccinated if they tell you, yeah, you get vaccinated, but you know what? You still got to wear a mask. Okay. What's the selling point then? Why would I do it? So
exactly.
I understand.
Basically, the long and short of it is they want you to get the vaccination so you make other people feel okay.
But yes, but the idea is somehow we're all going to be better off with the vaccination, which is true, but that you'll still get sick, but it won't be as bad. I mean, that's a horrible selling point to get people to do it because they want to hear you get the vaccine, you'll never get sick, and it's done. You don't have to worry about it ever again. And that's not what I can see. Bob's like, I got
if that were the case, absolutely, I would do it.
Well, so anyway, there was a football game last night.
Yeah, I know. And
like a segue.
But I mean, that was to answer your question, Bob. I don't know how they're going to enforce it in the dome. Really, to me, you're going to have to do it at the checkpoint. You can't do it at Champion Square. You need to do it at checkpoint when you walk in. and you're taking your belt off and or whatever it is you got to take off to get in the damn place. So, and that's the issue. But regardless, Bob, Donald's tweeting, writing all kinds of things that are popping up here. We're going to talk about it all, Donald. I promise. All the injuries and stuff like that. You're good, bad, and ugly from the game. What would you put it? What would you put down as your good, bad, and ugly?
Oh gosh, I mean it's pretty easy to pick out the good. The hard part about that is whittling it down. I mean, obviously you got to start with Jameis Winston. He played 3 series, led him to 2 touchdowns, and it was offensive line penalties back to back that short circuited that second drive. Jameis had a great command of the offense, looked very poised in the pocket. Checked into the right play against the blitz a couple times. Very crisp and accurate passes, and most importantly, and I've been saying this to people until I'm red in the face all off season. He had the offense on rhythm, and all off season training camp and even the first preseason game, I thought that's what gave Jameis the advantage over Taysom Hill, and it was certainly very, very clear last night. Marquez Callaway, how could you not love this kid? I mean, I see people making comparisons to Marcus Colston because of the way they fell in the draft. Let's pump our brakes on that a little bit. But Marquez Callaway is going to have a nice season for this team. Not only those 2 spectacular deep catches, but he was he ran real sharp routes, through the intermediate zones too. Strong hands in traffic. Very confident wide receiver right now. I like the way Tony Jones ran again, and I think this kid could make even a push for the number 2 running back job. It's a little bit of a stretch right now, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, he's running with great vision and balance, and even providing a little bit of a receiving threat out of the backfield. And we'll get into more specific names as the show goes along, I hope. But the top 2 defensive unit, and not just the top defensive unit, because these people, defensive line linebackers and secondary, they go too deep at almost every position. So the top 2 units were extremely impressive in shutting down Jacksonville. Didn't even allow a first down until I think like 7 minutes left in the half. Defensive line got a great push. Linebackers were very active, and the secondary played a strong, cohesive unit. So, I mean, those were whittling it down as quick as I could. Those were my high points of the game last night.
Mm-hmm. If I would pick on my guys, I would say, well, Jameis, obviously. I thought, it was a very vanilla defense he was facing. Obviously, it's preseason, simple zones, but he made crisp reads. He knew right where to put it. The receiver sat in the zone. He got the ball right to him. I mean, when they did blitz, they picked up the blitz well. He read it well, made the great throws. The first touchdown by Callaway, I'll watch that happen. I was being at the game. I'll watch that happen, and I'm like, oh, that's pass interference. Obviously, first and goal. He caught it. How did he catch that? And of course, the replay on it is even better because you've got a really good shot of him cradling that ball. And the same with the second one. I mean, he was basically out of bounds. Catching that ball, but managed to keep himself in bounds enough so his knees came in the end zone first, then he landed out of bounds. Tremendous body control. That was over Shaquille Griffin, who they paid a lot of money. The Jaguars paid a lot of money to bring over to fix their secondary. I was very impressed with that. I was very impressed with the defensive front 7. Zach Bond had another good game. I watched Paulson Adebo a lot, and I was surprised how much Jacksonville was targeting Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Yeah. I mean, it seemed like every play they were going at him. I'm like, you got a rookie right there. Go at him. And Ken Crawley had a great play, full extension, got his hand up, batted it down. And, of course, he gets injured. Yeah, I mean, so, we'll talk about the injuries in a minute, but I thought, the first half, the Saints defense looked incredibly strong, really deep. I watched, they played they played Davenport well into the third quarter, and Davenport did well. You know, most of the other starters were out of there by the second or third series. They only left a handful in there, but excuse me, you know, the linebackers they have behind Quan Alexander and Demario Davis, I don't think this team's going to be looking for a linebacker if someone gets injured this year. I think, you know, there's a couple guys on there who are going to make the practice squad. We may lose those guys to other teams because they really are hustling and trying hard. It's going to be tough to keep 6 linebackers because you've got about 7 who really have a shot at making this team with Quan coming back like that. And the last thing, I was disappointed in the running game outside of Tony Jones.
Mhm.
I thought Latavius Murray looked very old and very slow.
Yeah.
And I don't think Devontae Freeman has anything left. I really don't. I mean, he's trying hard out there. You can see he's trying to make plays, but he really doesn't have that wiggle to make someone miss. So yeah, Tony Jones is the bright spot, and I think they're going to be looking for a running back in these final cuts, because I think they do not trust or do not think much of the two veteran running backs that got behind Kamara. So that's, you know, we were all worried about the receiving core. The running backs, you know, there's some challenges there. You really need somebody, a veteran guy to step up, and I just haven't seen it.
That was my concern when we signed Freeman, was just exactly what he did have left in the tank. Because to me, he was never the same player after he left Atlanta.
No, and I think injuries have kind of slowed him down. But yeah, Davenport at one point he picked up a dude and threw him into Trevor Lawrence, and it was actually rather amusing. I saw it happen, and there were a couple plays where Davenport he didn't make the tackle, but man, he messed up some people to let somebody else make a tackle. You know, I was up in the terrace level, pretty much at the 50-yard line looking down. So I had a kind of the all 22 view up there. And, you know, some of the stuff, you know, my daughter's with me. She's like, who's number so-and-so? I'm like, I really don't know who that is. I mean, who's number 32? I really can't tell you who that is. I'm not sure. That's why they get the program. Whip it out. I mean, you know. So,
yeah. Now, going back to what you said, Sean, about Freeman, and I do remember, you expressing some, openly expressing some doubt a couple weeks ago when they signed him. I agree with both of you. Devontae Freeman just looks like a guy whose injuries caught up with him, and that's always going to do in a slasher type of running back because you rely on that one cut and explosive burst into space, and right now he just doesn't look like he has it. He did look better last night than what he did against Baltimore, but that wasn't a far reach.
No. The bar was pretty low.
Right. Latavius could be on the bubble, guys. And Alan, like you said, if Sean finds a running back out there on the waiver wire that he likes, Mr. Ingram, for example, if he were to become available. Mark knows the system. You have to question what he has left too. But he gives them a similar type of back, alibi a little bit more explosive than what Murray was able to. And, Latavius just looks old. Now part of that is the line combinations, the backup offensive line, aside from James Hurst. Will Clapp had a couple nice moments last night, but they aren't getting the type of push. So Latavius is basically running up against a brick wall. But still, your backs have to make plays and at least push the pile for a couple yards. And he just doesn't look like he has that leg drive to him right now.
No, he's always been an upright runner. And it's one of the things that's always bothered me about Murray is he's an upright runner, and to be an upright runner, you have to have some speed and glide to you. I mean, Eric Dickerson is probably the most famous.
That's exactly who I was thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably the most famous upright runner, but he had a lot of wiggle and move to himself that you never got a clean shot at him. And once he was in open field, he was just gone. And
he never looked like he was running fast.
No.
Or hard.
No.
He just was smooth.
Yeah. Marcus Allen early in his career was that same way, that gliding kind of runner. And Murray looks like age just caught up with him all of a sudden because he didn't look that bad last year. And so that's probably the biggest concern. And then, we might as well start talking about it. The injuries that happened last night. I mean, for preseason games, I don't give a damn who wins or loses. I really don't. I used to care about that kind of stuff, but I don't. The only thing I want is to see these guys come out unhurt.
Yeah.
And last night we had a lot of injuries. Brian Poole got injured. It looked pretty bad. I mean, my daughter, I love her to death, but she is as soon as someone goes down, they tore their ACL. Her first diagnosis. And I know she's watching right now, so she's probably going to come here any minute now. Like, hey,
she going to break your ACL?
I watched for the comments.
Yeah. Who took sports medicine in this family? Not you, so. But he did. He did. He looked like he injured his knee pretty badly. He couldn't even put weight on it, and he got injured in the end zone. And I think that was the interception drive too. I think that was a drive where the next play, that linebacker McManus, I think it is, picked off Minshew, but he got injured. Both tight ends, Adam Trautman and Nick Vannett, got injured. Trautman went out on a cart, which I did not see. I don't know how I missed that, but he apparently went out on a cart. He must have been injured, got on the sideline, and then they decided to put, when they got him in the medical tent, brought him out put him on the cart then, which I couldn't see.
That's exactly what happened. It was off the sideline directly out of the medical tent.
That's why I couldn't see it. Go ahead, Bob. I mean, I know there's more I'm missing.
You guys had talked about Ken Crawley before we checked in. I don't know what the injury to Crawley was, but I will say this: if you're looking for good news, is that Ken will definitely miss the Arizona preseason finale this weekend. But all indications are he's going to be ready for the season opener. Adam Trautman's injury is foot ankle. We haven't heard a specific timetable, but an MRI revealed, and I'll just quote Nick Underhill's tweet. It is not serious, and he shouldn't miss that much time. Vannett's injury, Nick Vannett, the other tight end, he injured a knee. He got an MRI today. No word on that yet. And probably two injuries to the tight end position. It was already thin. Is painful. Let's see,
I told you.
Already thin tight end position. It is potentially crippling. But I'll tell you, the injury that discourages me the most is Jalen Dalton, who I think was going to be an opening day starter at defensive tackle, and he was playing really well. He tore his triceps again for the second straight year, and they put him and Brian Poole on injured reserve. That was 2 of their 5 roster moves. So Poole and Dalton are done for the year.
Yeah. You're right. He injured. He tore his tricep last year, and that's how he ended up on the practice squad. Well, how he ended up getting stashed in IR, essentially. And that was somebody that I think they were counting on, especially with Onyemata being out. They were counting on him. Malcolm Roach didn't play. My understanding that Shai Tuttle's fighting for a roster spot too. These injuries may have kept him on the team, but it's kind of my concern coming into this season was that this team was very thin. as far as veteran help. And you're losing guys that you've brought in. I'm thinking about Brian Poole. I'm thinking about Nick Vannett. Guys that you've brought in to kind of back up or support your starters and not play so many of these young, undrafted or rookie players. And now we're counting on these guys pretty much to play week 1 against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. It's I like Adebo a lot. I think he is a very good corner. I think he's going to make some mistakes when we get to the regular season games, but this is not a kid who is the game's too big for him. He's fighting. He is a fighter, and I like him a lot. I was very impressed with him, and I think it's taken some of the pressure off of having that number 2 corner, a veteran number 2 corner, but I still think they need some veteran depth back there. I mean, Sean, what do you think?
I agree completely. He's going to play. I truly expect him to be a game 1 starter, Adebo, that is. He's played well. He's looked very impressive at times. But, week 1, you're going up against the MVP of the league last year. So I look for him to be targeted a lot. And he's definitely going to be on a learning curve. No doubt about that.
I mean, Lattimore has hardly played at all in preseason. And in fact, I don't think he played at all last week. And if he was out there at all, he wasn't out there at all yesterday either. He didn't play at all yesterday because the starters were Ken Crawley and Adebo. So, I mean, and all indications on Lattimore is having probably I guess the best way to put it is pay me kind of camp. He wants that money. He wants to get that big contract.
Bob, do you expect that to happen?
Yeah, I do. Assuming assuming that the legal troubles aren't major, from his boneheaded offseason arrest, and we haven't heard, knock on wood, we haven't heard anything about even a pending suspension from the league. So I don't know what's going to go on with that. I don't even know. There aren't even any specific charges being leveled against Lattimore. Nothing criminal anyway. I think legally he's going to come out of this thing with just a slap on the wrist. And because of that, I think that Lattimore's big payday is probably next on the to-do list of Mickey Loomis and that front office. And I think it has to be. I mean, Paulson and Adebo, I agree with both of you. I love the pick the night that they made it. I wish they would have addressed the cornerback position earlier. But Adebo's a first-round talent that probably would have been late first, early second had he played at all last year. That's a case where where a player opting out actually hurt a draft stock. We didn't see a lot of it, but it definitely hurt Adebo. You go in, Dennis Allen likes to run an aggressive man-to-man scheme. You're not going to be able to do that with the likes of P.J. Williams and some other cornerbacks that they've rolled through town. You need guys like Paulson Adebo, Marshawn Lattimore, any of the NFL wideouts, will tell you in a moment of truth that Lattimore is a top 3 cover guy in the league, and he's capable of sticking his nose in there and making the tackle too. When Marshawn's head is into the game, there's not really many any better. So I do think that Marshawn, at the end of the day, he's going to get paid from the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, they can't do anything with Marcus Williams until next year.
Right.
He's playing under the tender. So, that was a question, and we can address this much later on in subsequent shows as the season unravels or rolls on. That was a Freudian slip there. As the season rolls on, I read on Twitter they had 2 options. Number 1, Jameis Winston has an incredible season, borderline MVP candidate, but the Saints go one and done in the playoffs, and he has saves his worst game for the playoffs. do you pay him? And the second question was, or we get the full Jameis Winston experience. You know, you get the 30 touchdowns, but you get the 30 interceptions, and you get all that. The Saints go 9-8 somehow because of tiebreakers or a fluke, make the playoffs, and then Jameis gets hot, and you get to see the kind of Jameis Winston you saw in that first half last night, and the Saints go on to Super Bowl but lose. Okay, do you pay him in both those scenarios? Either one of those scenarios, I'm saying, do you pay him? And
I think it would probably hinge on the type season that he has.
Well, that's
not post season.
I just gave you the two scenarios there. So he got you to the Super Bowl, but you had to live through the 30-30 kind of season, or he was borderline MVP, but they were one and done in the playoffs. And he played his worst game in the playoffs. Do you pay him?
First of all, I don't think Jameis will not be on the field long enough to throw 30 interceptions.
I don't believe that either. I don't believe.
Yeah, Sean Payton won't let that happen. I mean, it'll be Ian Book, it'll be Trevor Siemian, it'll be Taysom Hill, it'll be Archie Manning before he let Jameis throw 30 interceptions. I've said this before, though. I think, and I've always believed since day one of the offseason that Jameis Winston was going to be your 2021 opening day starter. And I think he's going to have a good year. If Jameis is having a very good year and this team is in division title contention, in the heat of it in early December, I think the Saints need to make a strong move to get a long-term contract done with him then. Because I believe that by then Jameis would have had to play a good, consistent 12 to 13 games. Even if you get 10 to 12, that should be enough, for them to come to him with and I'm just spitballing a number, 20 to 22 million a year average, because that's roughly what Teddy Bridgewater got. If Jameis Winston thinks he's going to get paid top 3, even top 5 quarterback money, he's out of his mind. And at that point, you let him hit the open market. Unless he's thrown for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns by December 1st, there's no way that's going to happen. If he's having an up and down year, and the Saints squeak into the playoffs, but Jameis gets hot, I think you sit down at the negotiating table with him, but you sit down with some realistic numbers. You offer him between 15 and 20 million a year, 2 to 3 years. He's probably not going to accept that kind of thing. Well, then you shake hands. You say, let us know what you get on the open market. This is our offer. We've seen them do that to players before. Sometimes it's backfired. Sometimes it's paid off. That I think that those are the two best case scenarios for Jameis Winston to continue being a New Orleans Saint.
I don't disagree with that at all. And my attitude in both those scenarios is no, I'm not paying him, because this is the unasked question, and the reason why I brought this up is because you're gonna have to pay Lattimore, you're gonna have to pay Marcus Williams. That's a lot of money you're gonna get tied up in your cap, because keep in mind you've already paid Ramczyk, you've already paid Michael Thomas, you've already paid Alvin Kamara. The thing about the salary cap.
My interruption, but don't forget that Armstead is up this year too.
And Armstead's up. Yes, Armstead is up. The thing about the way the CBA is structured, and Loomis math aside, you have a very small haves who get all the money, and then the have-nots are mostly your depth, your rookies, your guys playing on rookie contracts, your undrafted free agent contracts, and cheap veteran contracts. So if you want to pay Winston, and I agree with you, you don't pay him top 5 money, but if you're paying him top 10 money even, you pay Winston that much money, you can move the shells around all you want, but eventually you've got cap figures that have to be accounted for in we don't get the big contract this year. We get it next year with the new television contract. So we see if the cap actually grows. That's a lot of things you're going to have to decide. You're probably going to lose one of those players.
Yeah.
If you pay that kind of money to Winston. So that's something to keep in mind. That's the part that's, like I said, remained unasked in that question. And yes, Loomis math can work where you can push money down the road and everything else. But remember, you've pushed money down the road already for Michael Thomas. You've pushed money down the road already for Alvin Kamara. So you were under the cap this year. So that's the kind of stuff that that I'm thinking about when it comes to deciding how much you want to pay Winston. And the same is true for Taysom. I mean, Taysom Hill, regardless who it is, ultimately a quarterback on a rookie contract might be better. But in those two scenarios we just described, Ian Book is going to be your starter because you're not going to go up high enough to get that great rookie contract, rookie quarterback to build your franchise around. Because for that to happen, the whole season has to unravel and blow up. So,
and you have to trade some future, future prospects. Yeah. You have to make a big trade, and then you're banking on those big contracts to continue to play well. While you have nots, as you put it, continue to overachieve until it comes time to pay them.
Yeah, I mean, and you think about Cam Jordan. Is this Cam Jordan's last year as a Saint? If they want to pay Winston, they want to pay Marcus Williams and Marshawn Lattimore, does Cam Jordan become a salary cap casualty? Yeah, because you've got Peyton Turner. We haven't seen him play yet, but you've got Peyton Turner on the roster as a potential replacement. I mean, everybody thought, he's a replacement for Davenport. We're going to let Davenport walk after this year. And Davenport will be a free agent soon, too. We picked up his fifth-year option, but he's going to be a free agent. If he has the breakout season everybody thinks he's supposed to have, you pay him, too. I mean, I'm not trying to be a doomsday guy. But
you're depressing the hell out of me.
Yeah, but these are decisions that have to be made down the road, and you want to focus on this year, and you want this season to be a great team. But keeping your core together is what makes you a great team year after year after year. Mm-hmm. What Tampa Bay did this past year is very unusual, bringing back all 22 starters. It's very unusual after winning the Super Bowl, but. I don't know, Calvin. What the hell kind of injury does Turner even have? I have no idea. No one knows. I mean, you got a better shot at getting secrets out of the Kremlin, I've just dated myself, out of communist China than you are getting an injury report out of Sean Payton. The only thing he'll say is he'll be back sooner rather than later. And that's his standard answer.
Hey, listen.
Yeah. I agree, Calvin. I think the defense is a lot better than we thought they were going to be. I have to say, my hidden MVP. I know Donald brought up Chris Richard. I'm gonna call him Richard because it's the Saints. Chris Richard. From Seattle, being the new secondary coach, is doing a great job coaching up these defensive backs. Ryan Nielsen, the defensive line coach, is probably the Saints' secret weapon right now. Him and CJ, the receivers coach. You cannot say enough about those two guys.
And speaking of receivers, I'd like to start with you, Sean. We talked about Callaway. I thought little Jordan Humphrey battled hard yesterday. He bounced back after a couple really rough days at practice. Ty Montgomery had a couple decent catches. I think he's a shoo-in for a roster spot. What about the other guys? Kevin White's easy to poop on right now because there's two easy drops. But the fact that, look at those routes. He ran really sharp routes. So I think he's going to be given another shot. But what did either one of you guys think about the rest of the receiving corps? I'm really down on them, and I was high on these guys for a while coming into camp, but I'm really down on them. Do you see any playmakers coming out of there?
You talking about the bottom half of the receiver corps?
Yeah, K1, Aesop, anyone really. Hogan.
Well, Hogan didn't even play. They had him inactive, so that's your Austin Carr of the 2021 Saints, in my opinion. He's a guy that's going to be on the roster every week. He is going to be taking his turns, being active, inactive, depending on the matchup. And people are like, what the hell does Hogan have on Peyton that he's still on this team? But I think Hogan's going to stick on the roster just because he's a dependable guy who runs good routes, not a game breaker, nothing like that. But he's a guy they can go to if they need him.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Outside
Hogan, what speaks volumes on Hogan is his experience.
Yeah.
And he's had experience at the highest level. And that's the kind of guy that you want to be able to depend on if you need him. Mm-hmm. But he's also old.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, outside of Ty Montgomery, and, once you get past Deontay Harris, you throw them all in a bag, and it doesn't really matter who comes out because it's a 50-50 shot they're going to catch the football. Ty Montgomery and Chris Hogan are your most reliable targets after Deontay Harris.
Mm-hmm.
I've been really impressed with little Jordan, though. He has improved vastly over what we saw of him last year.
What an analogy. Calvin's comment. Kevin White pisses me off more than anybody. Like seeing somebody 6'9" but don't play sports as an accountant or something. Good choice, an accountant. Like all the height and speed and talent in the world for no reason. I was really upset because I was watching Kevin White the entire game. Every time the defense was on the field, and I'm looking down on the sideline, and Kevin White's got his helmet on, and he's just like walking around, like pacing like a tiger. He can't wait to get out there, and I felt bad for him because he wanted to make a play so badly, and he's looking at the clock. He looks at the crap quarterback is throwing the ball, and he's looking at how many snaps are left in this game, and he is trying to make every play be a home run ball so he can show off his speed, and he dropped both of them. I mean, both times he's looking upfield. As soon as that ball was let go, he's like, I'm looking to see how bad I'm going to burn this bastard I'm up against. And, he dropped both of them. And he's hitting the turf all upset. I'm pulling for the guy because I'd love for the Saints to get a steal out of him.
Yeah.
I'd love for him to be healthy. I mean, he has all the talent, all the physical skills you want as a receiver. It's why he was picked 7th overall. But he can't stay healthy. And right now, he didn't put on a good showing. And he needs to make that good showing.
Yeah, and Sean said this about White last week, that even if the Saints get a steal out of him, it's a risky bet to roll the dice on Kevin White's health week in and week out. I do think he deserves another chance because again, I look, and believe me, the drop pissed me off too. That's my inner coach talking. There's errors you cannot make, especially on back-to-back plays. But looking at it on the bright side, he made really sharp cuts to get open and actually got separation on both of those routes, something that we have not seen from the other receivers. You don't see that kind of explosiveness out of little Jordan Humphrey. You're right, Sean. He has improved. He's sharpened his routes, Humphrey has, and I like the way he battles. I think he makes the team. But a guy like Aesop Winston, he's a guy that the Saints are probably going to stash on the practice squad or try to because of his speed. K'Wan Baker has been a disappointment. Traquan Smith continues to be Traquan Smith. So you need a guy to come out and give them something. Kevin White is a guy, if I'm Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael, I give him tons of reps against Arizona.
Absolutely. I was more upset for White that he didn't get into the game until late in the fourth quarter.
Mm.
I thought he should have come in. Even when Taysom was out there, I thought he should have come in at the beginning of the second half. I mean, he played special teams. They wanted to see how you play on special teams, but he should have been out there earlier in that ball game, just to see what he can do with a lot of snaps, kind of take the pressure off of him. And I was disappointed he did not get in that game soon enough. I don't know what he would have done. According to Christian Garrick and Deuce McAllister, I was listening to the pregame show on my way to the game. They were talking about how much Kevin White has impressed in camp and how much he wants this opportunity, how much he wants to make this team. They said he sacrifices his body, throws it all over the place, trying to make catches. And like you said, he looks like an NFL receiver coming out of his breaks, running precise routes. I mean, getting lined up, doing all the things that you expect to see an upper echelon NFL receiver do, but he's not catching the ball.
Except catch the ball.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just it. And they're like, that's not the Kevin White we saw in practice. That's a guy that you saw in that game. That's where you sit there and go, oh, he's a first-round bust. That's what you get out of him. He's
well, in a lot of ways, you're seeing the exact same type of thing out of Taysom Hill. It appears like they're trying so hard not to make a mistake that they're playing tight.
Yeah. I promised we were going to talk about this thing. My daughter's pointing this out. If there's a quarterback that needs to break a record or set a record, Smith will show up for those games. That is right. True. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, we do have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. The thing about with Taysom Hill looks like a guy, and I said this off air, looks like a guy who knows this is his opportunity to shine and is trying so hard, like you said, not to make a mistake, and constantly is second guessing himself. Instead of being the instinctive thrower, the instinctive passer of I'm going to throw people open. This guy, I'm going to trust this guy to be where he's supposed to be. I'm going to put the ball there. I'm holding it, waiting for him to come open. Like it's college football, and I mentioned this off the air before we got started. Peyton Manning at his Hall of Fame speech said, his first year, Dad, no one is open. Yeah, because in college football, people are wide open. In the NFL, you generally have to throw people open. You do get the occasional play with a busted coverage and somebody's wide open, but that's the unusual one. Most of the time, especially when the field shrinks, you're throwing somebody open. And I had said this too off the air. This is where I missed NFL Europe or some sort of developmental league, because a guy like Taysom Hill needs to be playing in an NFL developmental league where he can learn the timing and get those snaps. Because what you're seeing, basically, the things we're talking about, you're seeing a guy who's only had 4 starts in the NFL. You're seeing a guy who took a few years off between college and the pros. You're looking at a guy who did not get a lot of snaps in college because of injuries. So he didn't develop that muscle memory, that innate ability. Okay, I know how to play this game, and I'm comfortable playing this game. You got a guy who is trying to, and you're seeing improvement. Don't get me wrong. You're seeing improvement in this game, but you're getting a guy who is getting everything in the classroom, but not being able to translate in the field because he doesn't have the reps to bring that.
Yeah, well, he's getting A's in Spanish class, and then he's being airdropped into Spain, by himself, and he's incapable of ordering anything to eat. Is basically what it's doing with that. I see a question, and I know this pisses both of you guys off, but I mean it in a different way than what a lot of people on social media are saying it. When I say Taysom's not a quarterback, what I mean by that is that Taysom Hill is incapable of making a read past his first read when that's covered or shut down. He's just in case, paralysis by analysis. And he does want to make a play. I'm not saying he's not in the long term capable of it. It's just like you both said a minute ago, you were talking about development. He's never developed to that point. And now you're being thrown, you're basically taking a guy, with a handful of starts at BYU and now throwing him into it to one of the most high-tech NFL offenses that has ever existed and saying, figure this out, kid. He just can't do it. He physically and mentally cannot do it right now. Can he make the throws? Yeah. Can he develop? I wish the guy wasn't 31 years old. I wish he was 22 years old because I think he would have a future at the position. But right now it's not at quarterback, and it's certainly not at quarterback with the New Orleans Saints.
Well, I get mad when people give the Tebow equivalent because, and they'll say things like, well, he's a tight end playing quarterback. That's not the case at all. He's not a tight end. He's not a tight end. He is a very talented athlete who has a lot of physical gifts, but has not had the training and the reps to be an NFL quarterback. It's like taking a guy in college who was a starter in college, and then, like you said, putting him into a very advanced offense. And he's had a long break between his last start in college and his first start in the pros. And believe it or not, to me, I think to make him a quarterback, I think the gadget use of him has kind of set him back a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because he's not in the quarterback room breaking down film, understanding what he's looking at, making those decisions, getting that classroom knowledge. He is in the receivers room. He's in the tight end room. He's in the running backs room. He's all over the place. He's running from meeting room to meeting room. And people kind of think it's kind of like playing flag football. You're a quarterback on this series. Next series, you're going to line up as a wide receiver. And it doesn't work that way. It's a week of preparing for the game plan, understanding where you're going to go, and also the stuff you're going to have to do in case of injury. If you remember Traquan Smith, we'll bring him up again. Traquan Smith talked about that one-trick play in the playoff game against the Bucs. And he said, that play was designed for Deontay Harris. And Deontay got hurt in the game, and I'm glad I was paying attention in the receiver room, so I understood what Deontay was supposed to do in that play. Because they wouldn't have called it if they weren't sure Smith could run it. So, I mean, that's the thing about, when people saying, okay, we're going to make Jameis Winston the starter, and we'll just put Taysom back in his Swiss Army knife role. Well, okay, but then who's your number 2 quarterback who steps into the game if Winston gets hurt?
Exactly.
Book? Are you going to put a rookie in there now?
No, it'd be with the way the roster is constructed right now, it'd be Trevor Siemian.
So you have 4 quarterbacks on the roster.
I think it's conceivable.
Yeah. And where do you go light then? Do you go light at tight end? Do you go light at running back? Do you go light at wide receiver? I mean, that's where you only got 45 active on game day, 53 people on the roster. You're going to have to go light somewhere to hold 4 quarterbacks. I mean, we used to do 2 quarterbacks with Drew Brees before we did the Swiss Army knife thing. And if you're saying, well, we won't count Taysom as a quarterback, we'll make it we'll have 3 quarterbacks, and Taysom will be kind of like the specialist, kind of like what you do with the kicker, the long snapper, and the punter. Okay, again, you're still taking away somebody from some position who, you may need that depth later on because he's not a full-time anything.
Yeah.
So, it's a tough decision that you didn't have to make when you had Drew Brees because you could do 3 quarterbacks and have Taysom go abuse his body because you had a veteran behind Drew Brees. So that's a hard time. That's a hard decision to make. I know. I kind of threw that out there and didn't give you guys a question or anything like that.
No,
But I'm just throwing that out there for people who are talking about this is what he needs to do again, and we'll just go with Jameis Winston and everything will be hunky dory.
yeah.
It's not going to work that way.
It's not. It's certainly not that simple.
No.
Yeah, I think for that scenario to work, like you said, like you both said, you're taking again. You're at the Vegas craps table and you got your eyes blindfolded. You're taking a huge risk. It could pay off, but you're going to have to go light at a position like running back, for instance, where you could take a Ty Montgomery and move him into the position if you had to. But then you lighten your receivers. You could go light at cornerback because you could move a guy like P.J. Williams or even C.J. Gardner-Johnson over into cornerback if you got banged up there. But that weakens your entire secondary. If you do that, and again, you do want Taysom to be ready to be a quarterback if it calls upon it. Because say you go into the season with 4 quarterbacks. Trevor Siemian is going to be your primary number 2 if Jameis gets nicked up during a game where Trevor has to come in and finish the game or maybe even start the next week. But if Jameis goes down for a long period of time, you don't want Trevor Siemian in there.
Right.
You want to move Taysom Hill back into there. But what's that mean? That means that Taysom Hill still has to be involved in the quarterback meetings, which means he cannot be a full-time jack of all trades player.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to. You either have to make a decision, on Taysom Hill, saying, all right, Taysom, you're no longer going to be a quarterback, period, end of story. We're going to use you everywhere else, and we're going to find other answers at quarterback. Or you keep, and again, you have to feel sorry for the kid if this is what happens.
Yeah.
We're going to keep moving you around. What if? And, too many what ifs to play with a team that's so much thinner because of their personnel losses this offseason.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. I just, it's a hard decision to make, and you're going to have to, if you have that conversation with him, which I think Taysom will do whatever it takes to get on the field and play.
I agree.
I think he's that kind of competitor. A lot of people are pulling up this quote from 18 months ago where he said he envisioned himself being a starting quarterback. Peyton's conversation with Taysom, if he is going to go back to the Swiss Army knife role, listen, we're still going to run the RPO plays, except now we're probably going to run pass plays out of it.
Yeah.
You've shown you can throw the ball. We can do that kind of stuff where you have one read, make a decision. If it's not there, run with it. That kind of stuff. But as far as personnel, you're in a tough place because basically, you're really going to be looking at, because I don't feel confident even with Trevor Siemian as your veteran backup. I mean, the whole reason we got Bridgewater in is because we didn't feel good about, what was that kid from the Texans we had as a backup briefly? I forgot his name now.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I can too. That's why I knew he came from the Texans. But they didn't feel comfortable with him as a veteran backup. Right. They went and got it Bridgewater. You would need an upgrade from Siemian at backup if you're going to go 4 quarterbacks with that veteran guy to be that number 2 guy. And I'm sorry, we're kind of running out of backups. I mean, the Colts are looking hard at Nick Foles for a while. So, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. So a lot of people want Taysom to play tight end because of the injuries, because he did that well. Donald's asking, can you see the Saints bringing in a tight end like a Tyler Eifert or some other tight end with the injuries that they've got? Bob, what do you think?
Eifert, no. And the reason is I think just injuries have robbed that young man. He's basically the Kevin White of tight ends. Injuries have robbed the young man of whatever athleticism he had. I think tight end is going to – and Juwan Johnson has really impressed me. But I don't think he's your down in and down out, inline tight, number 1 tight end. We're going to see Juwan Johnson heavily involved in this offense. I'm becoming more convinced of that by the week, but it's not going to be as the top tight end. We got to wait to see what Troutman's injury, the extent of his injury is. But a tight end is going to be a position that the Saints are going to be watching the waiver wire very, very closely after this weekend's set of games. And also, do not discount the fact that they make a move and try to trade for Zach Ertz from Philadelphia. Philly has had him out there for a while. I think you at least got to come knocking on the door and see what Philly wants for him realistically. But if it's someone like Eifert, Eifert's just a guy that they bring in, just like Kevin White, to see, does he have enough athleticism left for us to maybe get a couple games out of him? But you don't want to roll the dice and count on a Kevin White or a Tyler Eifert week in and week out, because you're going to be, after 2 to 3 weeks. History has shown us time and time again with those two players, after 2 or 3 weeks maximum, you're going to be in the same exact position all over again.
Well, earlier Donald asked me what I thought about the fullback. I mean, Sean Payton is one of the few guys who still uses a fullback. He likes a fullback who can play running back, short yardage back, and catch passes out of the backfield, because he loves that little wheel route out to the flat to the fullback, especially around the goal line. He loves that play. And he's been looking for another Heath Evans forever, because that's what he wants. He wants somebody who can block well, but also catch the ball well. I think Juwan Johnson. Is it Johnson? I thought it was Jameson. Juwan Johnson. They're saying Darren Weller. He reminds me of, fans are going to get pissed off these comparisons. But he is what they expected a guy like Boo Williams and Dan Arnold to be. A converted wide receiver to become a tight end, pass catching tight end, a guy they're going to line up in the slot or outside the numbers. They're going to use him as a big target wide receiver. Mike Carney, he's Donald saying Mike Carney. He liked Mike Carney, but Mike Carney wasn't a natural pass catcher. He wants a pass catching fullback. He wants Tom Rathman, basically. He really wants a Tom Rathman. Who doesn't? But that's what he really wants. Oh, boo. He really wants a fullback who is a true weapon and can play tight end almost like an H-back in a pinch, because he's your fourth tight end. Not having a blocking tight end for the running game is a real problem for Sean Payton. And that's where I think he's going to be looking for guys, much less of a pass receiving kind of tight end. I think he's going to be looking for a guy who can be that run blocker, who can pull the traps, lead out on the sweeps and things like that. And that's what Nick was supposed to do. That's what Adam Trautman was supposed to do. And I think that's really Hannah's just caught this one. The Kremlin. Yeah, the Kremlin. I'm dating myself. And I love the 49ers fullback right now, too. I wish the 49ers would be stupid and let him go, but they're not that stupid. That's really what we're looking for in a tight end. And I remember they brought in Demetrius Harris, the Bears tight end, for a little while. They brought him in for a look-see. I wouldn't be surprised they brought him back. Possibly if Vanette is going to be out for a little while, they might bring him back to see what he can do for him. But that's a problem. It really is. And putting Taysom Hill at tight end is not the solution.
No.
Because Taysom Hill, all he would be is basically be a poor man's Juwan Jameson. I mean, that's he's a guy who can catch passes, but he's not a guy who can go and put somebody in their ass, as a blocker. And he just doesn't have enough. He doesn't have enough power in him. He's a strong guy, but he like a dad used to say when I was a kid trying to push a lawnmower, you ain't got enough lead in your ass to push that lawnmower, son. You're not there yet. So, what's going to happen? Well, he keeps asking, what's going to happen to backup offensive tackle now? Did what's his name now? Hurst get hurt?
No.
So Hurst is fine.
Yeah. Hurst is still your backup, probably your first backup off of the bench at either tackle or guard.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard too many reviews, good or bad, on Landon Young. That's a rookie that they thought at day 3 pick, but they thought pretty highly of him. Ethan Greenidge was placed on injured reserve today, and Ethan has been on the team the last 2 years, really, as a backup. So the tackles are thinner there. But if you're down to happen to play Ethan Greenidge week in and week out, you're in trouble anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, they like Landon Young a lot, and probably Greenidge's injury kind of pushes Landon Young up as a possible guy who makes the squad. They've been playing Will Clapp almost exclusively at center, as a backup center. So that tells you how they view him as a possible guard anymore. They look at him as a center. So I think backup guard is something to watch. I thought Sweezy had a terrible game last night. On one play with Taysom, they ran a screen pass, and it got blown up because Sweezy just could not get to the edge quick enough to seal that block. He makes that block, and that play goes somewhere, but the guy was there before Sweeney got there, so it's a little tough. Yeah, Calvin's poking the bear with this comment. So you're saying Taysom could be a faster, shorter Jimmy Graham? Yeah, with a much, much, much smaller pass catching radius. Yeah, he could be that. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Don't start.
The first F-bomb in the history of this show was Allen defending Jimmy Graham.
I can see that.
Look, I'm this guy. For some reason, all the guys I really like turn out to be prima donnas in the damn team. I really like Jimmy Graham, prima donna. I really like Pat Swilling when I was a kid. He must have been a prima donna. That's the thing I heard about Pat Swilling. I like Jimmy Graham, prima donna. I like Michael Thomas, prima donna. But my thing is, it ain't bragging if you can do it, and they're doing it. They're doing it. Pat Swilling led the league in sacks. Jimmy Graham, arguably the greatest pass catching tight end in Saints history. He's up there.
No doubt.
Receivers. Michael Thomas is probably one of the best receivers we've ever had. Yeah, he's not as explosive as a Wes Chandler or things like that, but you put Michael Thomas, and I know I'm a piss off Marcus Colston fans to no end, but you put Thomas next to Colston, next to Eric Martin, and you got to catch 100 balls from the jugs machine. Let's see you do it. Who's going to catch the most passes out of the 100 balls? Michael Thomas will catch the most of them.
Every time.
Every time. One of them.
Yeah. I love those other two guys. Great hands, great players, but Thomas is something special. And,
he is.
It's hard for me to not like those kind of people. I'm attracted to, because I was always craving as a kid. I was always craving for this team to have a star. So you have to talk about this team, because for the people who became Saints fans before Drew Brees was around, you probably can remember this. During the Dome Patrol years, they used to have signs up in the dome back when we had signs all over the dome. The Saints demand national respect, and they never got it. The Saints were like, yeah, that's that funny team with the bags on their heads, and yeah, they got some good guys, but there's always better players. And that's why I used to get, people get upset about Drew Brees not getting respect. imagine they were like, yeah, Drew, yeah, whatever. That's a quarterback. But when we talk about great quarterbacks, we can talk about these guys. That's how it was all the time with the Saints.
Yeah.
They would get names wrong. They would screw up the pronunciation of names. They didn't know who players were. And these are announcers calling the game, butchering stuff. Calling Ricky Jackson, the other team's number 57, that kind of stuff, all the time. And that was the stuff that used to piss me off. So, I knew this would get him. Slant boy, yeah, he does. He does. Joe Horn. Joe Horn was the first real prima donna, and I like Joe Horn a lot too. Joe Horn was the first real prima donna receiver. But I wanted to focus on this question before we got on that thing. What do you think about the interior of the defensive line with McIntosh, Christian Ringo, and Malcolm Roach?
I'll tell you, the defensive tackles have gotten really nice push in each of the last 2 weeks, I thought, and got that was happening well into the third unit. But you talked about Shy Tuttle a little bit before, maybe struggling and perhaps even being on the bubble. I was starting to think the same thing about Malcolm Roach. Now I think both are going to make the team out of attrition, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Another name to keep it, and Christian Ringo is playing some really good ball. He didn't stand out quite as much yet last night as he did against Baltimore, but he and Albert Huggins are in a real battle, to make the roster. RJ McIntosh, he's a run stuffer. I think he could make the team if they feel like they lack a little bit of beef in the center. But a guy to watch for to get more, and I saw him get a lot of reps and do well with them last night inside, is Tanoa Passanio, the defensive end that they brought in from Kansas City. Passanio goes about 285, 290. A big, tall, athletic guy. He actually, his playing style reminds you a lot of David Onyemata. Both guys were extremely raw coming in, but extremely athletic, and that's how they made their plays. Were just based off of raw athleticism. Onyemata is learning the nuances and the techniques a little bit faster than Passanio. Tanoa is coming along, and like I said, I saw him make some nice plays from both the edge and the inside last night. So there's still a lot of spots up for grabs at the defensive tackle. I think at this point they're going to go with Shy and Malcolm Roach because of their experience. But with the injury to Jalen Dalton, I say again, I think Jalen was going to be an opening day starter. That's a killer because now you got to play your edge guys more inside a little bit and hope a guy like Ringo, Huggins, or even McIntosh can emerge and give you some consistent down in and down out, at least run stuffing ability.
Yeah, and I find it interesting they're playing Onyemata on the edge a little bit to see what they can do, and that tells me that they're talking about flipping tackles and ends, much like Zimmer did in the 2019 playoff game, where he flipped his tackles and ends for matchups against weaker guards and centers. I think the Saints are kind of playing with the same concept. We can put, say, a Davenport and a Turner inside, put a guy like Onyemata on the outside, and maybe Tavin or Ganderson or someone else on the outside. So you have a NASCAR package, but you've also got some size that can flip. If they audible out of the play, they can flip back, kind of thing. You're not setting up
line in Top Gun, inverted.
Yeah. Yep. Inverted. A 5G negative invert. Yeah. They were communicating. Sign language. Got a great Polaroid of it. So last question for the night for Sean. Who are you going to be looking for this Saturday night that you think needs to have a great game to really solidify their shot at making this roster?
Ooh,
I know I'm throwing something out there. we've talked a lot about different players. It can be one of the ones we mentioned already.
I think White has to impress. I really, I think Adebo probably has solidified his spot. But guys like White, they have to shine, or they're not going to be on the roster.
Yeah. How about you, Bob? Who are you looking to see needs to make a one last major impression to make this roster?
I agree with Sean. Kevin White's at the top of my list. I think we're going to see him get a ton of reps. I'm interested to see the running back battle, if there is indeed one, between Devontae Freeman and Latavius Murray. But I'll go back to the receiver position. I'm still waiting, and I keep saying their names week after week, like they're going to emerge from the fog and do something great. Either Easop Winston or K'Wan Baker. I love the athleticism for them both, but they just haven't been able to do it. Esop's made some head-turning plays in practice, hasn't translated to the games yet. So I'm hoping one of those two, the light switch turns on. And I agree with you, Sean. I think Adebo is probably, if he's not the opening day starter alongside Lattimore, he's right behind Crawley, so he's going to see a lot of snaps. I'd get those guys in bubble wrap all next week, for the games. Is there going to be another cornerback emerge? Is they trail Jamerson or Grant Haley or somebody going to make a couple plays on special teams and actually hold up in coverage to give us a little bit of depth there? And the defensive tackles that we were just talking about a minute ago, I need to see some push up the middle from those guys. We have good depth along the edge, but it needs to, the interior needs to tie up those blockers too, so those edge guys get some single team blocking.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I'll be honest with you, Murray's got to make a play. Murray's got to make a showing Saturday night, or I don't think he's on the roster. I really don't.
Agreed.
I think he needs to break tackles and move the pile. That's what he's there for. He's supposed to be the hammer to Kamara's kind of, I almost said sickle, but not his kind of his he's the speed guy.
You're on this communist thing tonight.
Yeah, I sure am. Damn commies on my brain. Yeah, and we're talking about Top Gun, you're talking about a MiG, so we're all in the whole Cold War thing. Some receiver needs to step up, and I think it's got to be White. Not so much because I want White to be the number 2 guy or anything like that, but I think White needs to make this team, just so we're not relying on Traquan Smith and Lil Jordan Humphreys, who I feel is like a poor man's Brandon Coleman. And people are like, oh my God, you just really compared it to him. But yeah, he's catching the ball like Coleman does. I mean, he just reminds me of Brandon Coleman.
Yeah, I can see that.
Baker hasn't shown anything. He's probably destined for the practice squad. So someone's got to step up. Someone else needs to step. Callaway stepped up. Somebody else needs to step up. And we have a problem. We have to see what they're going to do with that. But in the last position I'm really concerned about is interior defensive line. Malcolm Roach, Shy Tuttle, you guys are going to be counted on again, because we've lost the players that really we thought could do something. So those guys are really going to have to step up to fill in not only the loss of Onyemata to suspension, but now, Dalton, and all my Roadhouse jokes just went out the window. It really pisses me off. I had one. I couldn't wait for Dalton to just kill a guy, kind of like how he did last night, but just kill a guy. And I was going to have Patrick Swayze with his arms folded with the phrase, "Be nice," beneath it. But I was going to superimpose Dalton, Jalen Dalton's head on there with the arms folded, "Be nice," because that was just the tip of my Roadhouse jokes I had for this guy, and now they're gone again. I mean, you got a guy named Dalton, you gotta do Roadhouse jokes. Practice my Peter Griffin joke. Roadhouse, you know, Roadhouse, the whole bit. So anyway, yeah, that's what I'm really focused on. My daughter's got a friend. I knew I was going to forget this guy's name. He's a UL player who is on the Saints roster, and I know they call him Deuce, but what is his real name? He is number 30. She's going to come running in here again in a second. He is number 36. Deuce Wallace. Yeah, Deuce Wallace. He didn't get cut today, which was good. So he still has a shot. I still think he's destined for the practice squad. He's been playing late in the fourth quarters, but number 36, that's a guy I just watch because he's a UL kid. So, yeah, there we go. All the Roadhouse jokes. Roadhouse. But yeah, you cannot. You got a guy named Dalton. You gotta tell. Coleman is still the best block in New Zealand. I don't care what nobody said. I said what I said, right, Calvin? Yeah, I mean, so that's the things. That's the things I'm gonna be watching for. I'm not watching for the quarterback battle anymore. In fact, I'll be surprised if Winston and Hill play very long at all. Play a little bit, but I don't think Winston plays at all.
No.
I think it's going to be mainly Book and Simeon in this game. With a bunch of scrubs. There won't be any of the starters out there. It's guys fighting for a job. So anyway, last thoughts, Bob. Anything you're working on right now that's going to be coming out soon?
A lot of the topics that we hit on tonight. A couple veterans that that need to shine bright, or else be on the waiver wire, including a couple surprise names, Latavius Murray being among them. Are any of these young defensive backs, Deuce Wallace, Bryce Thompson, Eric Burrell, do they have a realistic shot to stick based off of special teams and their fourth quarter performances? And then, obviously, I'm going to take a look at a couple of interesting names on the Arizona's roster that might be on the bubble themselves that might fit the need for the New Orleans Saints roster if they hit the waiver wire. So those kind of things as the week progresses.
Last thing, it reminds me, speaking of the Arizona roster, you guys saw the thing that the great receiver, I can't think of his name, just
Fitzgerald.
Larry Fitzgerald. He's a free agent. He's 37 years old, he's a free agent, and he basically says, I'm just not feeling it. I don't think I'm gonna come, rejoin the team. The weirdest retirement I've ever been around. He's not officially retiring. He's just like, I ain't feeling it. I don't think I want to play, kind of thing. I'm like, Larry,
they kind of need you.
Yeah, we could use you. I really wanted Larry Fitzgerald and the Saints for Drew Brees' final run because, two of the classiest players in the NFL on the same team. That just would have been too perfect. But anyway, it doesn't work out that way. But yeah, I agree. And then we didn't even talk about the kicker. They're going to still be looking for a kicker. We're back to the revolving door kickers until Lutz comes back, which will probably be about 4 to 6 weeks at least. So I think Mondays at Airline Drive are going to be interesting. I would not be surprised if they cut the punter, which I didn't. I totally expected him to get cut. Although they had him kicking off, I really thought, that Blake had locked it up within the first couple of days of camp. And he boomed one last night, too. He had a beautiful punt last night. But the place kicker position, that's going to be one of these things where we're going to get the final 53 and we're going to go, no kicker. Guess we're going for 2 every down, huh? And then until they make the move, So anyway, Sean, last thoughts from you, and then we have to wrap up.
I just hope I get to see this game.
Yeah. That would be good.
Yeah.
Passing out in a drunken haze and a cocaine binge. That's never good.
No, you going.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That was powdered sugar. You're right. That was powdered sugar. You eating all the beignets. That's how that works.
Now you're gonna have some people believing that shit.
I know. Sean worked at night, of course, so he's a vampire. He stays up all night and sleeps all day. Comes out of his coffin to go cook your Boston butt and your brisket over at.
And by the way, Bob.
Yeah.
Your joke last week. I didn't know this when I started working here, but a pork butt is not a butt. It's a shoulder.
So pigs literally don't know their asses from their shoulders?
Hey.
They must have done something.
I asked my boss when I first started working here, I said, I thought a ham was a butt. He said, it is. I said, then how does this, and he said, it's a shoulder.
You know what? Pigs must have done something wrong in my house from my dad when they were growing up, because my dad used to tell me all the time, you drop that thing or break that thing, I'm gonna kick your ass up around your shoulders. So that has to be the explanation.
Gotta be. Works for me.
Yeah, that's right. It's obvious some of you guys didn't grow up holding the flashlight for your dad while he's working on the car, and it shows. Just add the word stupid to everything, and you pretty much described it. Anyway, no, my dad was good. My dad was good man. I'm just kidding about all this. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. You never introduced anybody to the show. I just went straight into the diatribe about vaccinations and everything else. This is Bob Rose. That's Sean Williams. I'm Alan Ulrich. This was Under the Dome. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week after the last preseason game. Good night, everybody.